Wing, it's so good to see you. It must be 11 a.m. Central Standard Time because this is what we do every day, Monday through Friday. I always say, unless I'm traveling or there's a holiday, because there might be a few days here and there. But for the most part, we are here every single day, Monday through Friday. And we are talking very specifically about insulin resistance. And it is all a connection to my own universe. You know how that goes. If you've seen any of my content, in fact, put a 1 in the comment if you've never seen me before. Like put a 1 if you're like, who are you and why are you even on my feed? Put a number 2 if you already know who I am and maybe you've even tuned in a couple of times. Let me know. I would love to know. And if you're on the replay, let me know where you're coming in on the replay from. I did want to talk to you a little bit about, okay, so basically you guys, what we do is we get together and we choose to become our own advocates and we choose to take back our own health because we're getting bad information. I'm just not going to dance around that anymore. We are being given trash information most of the time from our medical providers when it comes to like insulin resistance, et cetera. And, when my dad passed away, he was only 63, type 2 diabetic, and he was just given really bad information. And the longer he listened to his doctors, the more meds he was on, the more filled his lazy Susan became, the more like health procedures he had to have. And then surgeries, and then dialysis, and then he was gone at 63. So we have to take back our health. A lot of the information has not changed, and it's tragic. It is really downright tragic. So today what I wanted to talk about is insulin resistance and your heart health, because there's a connection, right? And our doctor is measuring the wrong thing. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I already talked to you guys a ton about, listen, they're measuring the glucose in your blood, but they're not measuring your insulin. And this is a conversation I have all the time with you guys, all the time. Like overnight, the glucose in my blood was high. They said my labs were fine, and then all of a sudden they weren't. And I am here to like sound the alarm. Hey, Cheryl, good to see you. Good morning. And say, oh, very good. 1s and 2s. Oh, you guys are awesome. Thanks for answering that. That's perfect. Okay, very good. So some of you have not seen me at all, and some of you have. This is perfect. It's kind of like a 50-50 today. Very, very good. Okay. Yeah, jump on in. Come on in from the gallery on TikTok. Come on in. Join the party. We do this every day. And Monday through Friday anyway. And what happens then is I actually struggled. I struggled for 25 years with insulin resistance, not even knowing it. Exhausted, weight gain, can't lose weight, all sorts of like brain fog. My sleep was so messed up. So messed up. All of these pieces of insulin resistance. But the truth is that they could have told me about that 25 years earlier, because they could have pulled a fasting insulin test and they don't. So today I want to combine that information, which we talk about all the time, with what's this whole conversation on cholesterol? Because this is the other piece that I get from you guys. It's like, so oftentimes what I do is I just tell you guys to go listen to, let's see, some really good third-party resources would be Dr. Ken Berry, Berry on YouTube. He would be really good. Good morning, Cheryl. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for jumping on and tapping the screen. I so appreciate you. Good morning, Magda. Good to see you. And talking to you guys about the fact that you are, you need an fasting insulin test instead of waiting for your sugars to go up. So I'll explain that in just a second. But then now this whole cholesterol thing, so many of you are, I just had a conversation with somebody yesterday about statins, and statins are, listen, I'm not a doctor, okay? So I'm just your friend. Like, let's just have a cup of coffee here. Mine's water, but whatever. If it were me, and I'm just your friend, I would never in a bazillion years go on an STATIN, ever. Ever. And I'm going to tell you why today. Okay. So what if the tests that they're giving us aren't the markers that we should be looking at? I've already proven that, and I'm living that with insulin resistance. What if that's the same thing when it comes to the cholesterol conversation? So good third-party resources would be Dr. Ken Berry. Maria Emmerich has a really good article on her blog about cholesterol and these types of things. So today I was listening to a reel by Dr. Ben Bickman. Okay, Dr. Ben Bickman. And so this is what he was sharing. So let's dive into it and let's see what you think about some of this information. If it clears things up for you a little bit so that you have clarity when you go to the doctor and you know what to ask for. Or maybe you want to pull out your labs because you have them in a healthcare portal or something, and you can kind of make some decisions for yourself. Okay. So that's what this is all about. But yeah, let's just dive right into it. Let's get into it. Yep. Jump on in, you guys. Good to see you. It's so fun to see everybody every day. It's like a little party going on in here. All right. Here's my information. I think I missed something there. There we go. So my name is Kirsten Liebelt, and I was raised by a type 2 insulin dependent dad, and he died at 63 years old. And this impacted my life very much. And over the course of time, as I've had different experiences within the medical community, I've definitely paused and went, wait a minute, that information's not true, or that information's not good, or whatever it is. And so I've had to learn how to research for myself and become my own advocate. And so to empower other women, and I do have guys that are also, connected to me and customers and stuff, but like my group is called Ditch Insulin Resistance for Women. So I primarily serve women. But I want us to become our own advocates, because if we are sicker than we've ever been, more medicated than we've ever been, and more obese than we've ever been, then something's not right in what they're telling us. Okay. And I think that a lot of people who are on my content already know that, like, there might be an agenda. There might be a PHARMA money agenda, right? So this is why we're going to address this today, so you guys can make really good decisions. So, all right, let's talk about cholesterol first. Okay. And this is the analogy that I found, and I thought this was such a good analogy. So let's understand what HDL, LDL, and triglycerides are, and then learn which one you are actually wanting to track. So for your best information, listen, this is all connected. Insulin resistance is the base of freaking everything. And once you can get that in your brain, once you can receive that information, you change the lens that you look at everything through. From your cholesterol to your high BP, to your weight gain, to your belly fat, to your exhaustion, your lack of sleeping, your brain fog, your PCOS, your gout, your type 2 diabetes, your heart disease, your stroke, your everything. Like, if you can fix the insulin resistance, in my opinion, which is not a medical opinion, but in my opinion, that's where you're going to turn around pretty much everything else. Okay. So I started to do stuff with my own insulin resistance just a little over 10 years ago. And that should give everybody hope. Like, just take all the hope you can get from me, because I was 50. So take all the hope that you can get, because I didn't start when I was 35 when I should have. So if you have a daughter or a daughter-in-law, share information with her so that we can get connected. I would love to talk to me. I'd love to go back and tell me at 35, 37 years old what I know now. So if you know somebody in that age range, share information so that they can hear it too, and they can start earlier than I did. That's a piece of really important information. Okay, so this is the scenario, and I really like this one. So your HDL is your good cholesterol, and I'm sure you've heard that before. It's your good cholesterol. This is like a garbage truck. It picks up extra fat from your blood, and it takes it to the liver to be removed. So what do we talk about all the time? Love your liver. This is why so much of what I talk about when it comes to supplementation protocol for you guys is about your liver. Okay. Anyway, like a garbage truck, this is your HDL, your good cholesterol. It picks up extra fat from your blood and it takes it to the liver to be removed. More HDL is good because it helps keep your arteries clean. LDL is your bad cholesterol. Okay. Now this is where doctors actually have you measure, and then they put you on STATINs for it. Okay. But I want to give you like a little piece of information for you to really think on. Okay. Hey, Kristen, good to see you. Thank you for my heart. You're so sweet. LDL is your bad cholesterol. This is like a delivery truck that can sometimes crash. It carries fat to different parts of your body, but too much of it can dog your arteries. right? So that we don't want that, right? However, there's one more piece to the puzzle, your triglycerides. All right. These are like extra fuel stored in your blood, like fat, right? If you eat too much sugar or unhealthy food, processed food, seed oils, etc., your body turns it, sugar, processed foods, seed oils, takes all the bad things that you're putting into your body, and it's turning it into triglycerides, and too many can raise your risk of heart disease. Okay, so HDL is cleaning up. LDL can cause some blockages, but triglycerides are storing extra fat, keeping your HDL and your LDL plus triglycerides low, or keeping your HDL high and your triglycerides and your LDL low is best for your heart, right? Well, so what happens then is they give you this overall cholesterol conversation, and then they tell you that that's too high and you need to be on an STATIN, but that's not the biggest picture that you need to have. Okay, so this is where we have to step in and become our own advocates. And I mean that like for real. So hold on. I want to find my little section here. Uno momento, por favor. I did not say that very well, did I? But, that's okay. So you want to make sure that you're getting the right tests. Insulin resistance is actually the root cause of metabolic dysfunction, yet it's rarely tested. High triglycerides are a better predictor of heart disease, but we don't hear about them as often. So it's the high triglycerides that are the bigger problem instead of the LDL, but we have standard protocol. We have standard care in the medical community. So instead of testing your insulin, they test your sugars. Instead of telling you about your triglycerides, they tell you about your LDL. And there's an agenda behind. Now, this is my opinion. You don't have to agree with me, but probably you will. The agenda is money. The agenda is there's not a drug for, getting down your insulin. There's a drug for getting down your glucose. But they could have told you decades beforehand that you were going to have high insulin. They could have told you a long time ago, there's not a drug for your triglycerides, but there's a drug for your LDL. So they choose the marker they're telling you about, but it's not the best marker necessarily. We have to do our own research, right? So there is no big money for insulin resistance, so it gets ignored. Now we're kind of talking about it. So this is getting really exciting, right? So when you guys start to own your own health like this and you become educated, then you're able to determine your own factors and how you're going to turn things back around, right? So the medical industry's focus is often on treating symptoms rather than root causes. Why lifestyle interventions like diet and fasting are downplayed in favor of prescriptions. This is what's happening, right? So you want to get the right test. So ask your doctor for a fasting insulin and triglyceride to HDL ratio. Okay, and triglyceride to HDL ratio, and why a standard lipid panel isn't enough. And again, this is all coming from Dr. Ben Bickman, and he's talking about how we have the wrong markers in the medical industry, which are giving us the wrong answers, because then those answers are giving you scripts for the wrong markers. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't need a script maybe to help your sugars, because, eventually that's what happens, right? But you could have been dealing with that insulin a long time ago. And even before then, you could have had high triglycerides at the very beginning of your journey, and that wasn't being tested. That wasn't the marker that was being given to you. And you could have changed your diet at the very, very, very beginning, right? So how do you naturally improve insulin sensitivity and triglycerides? Good morning, Lori. Good morning, Phyllis. Good morning, Patty. Oh, so good to see you guys. The whole gang is here. I love it. So what do we talk about? Well, first of all, we talk about how if you understand how insulin resistance even begins its journey, like your pancreas releases insulin to choose the fuel for your body and get that fuel into your cell. because your cell needs to have something to work with. This is a cellular conversation, right? So insulin is a hormone, and that's what its job is to go and find glucose to put into your cell so you have energy. But when you just give it too much, you're just like piling on the glucose. You're like, I'm just going to eat everything that's going to just spike my sugars to the moon, and then I'm going to make my body take care of it. Well, your body is super efficient. God made it that way. And so your pancreas is like, well, I must need to make more insulin. But then when I take my insulin and I go and get all that extra sugar that you've been giving me from food that you've been eating, and it doesn't have to be from an actual sugar product. It's just something that's spiking the glucose in your blood. So it could be potatoes and white rice and bread and, well, just grain of any sort. Legumes are very sugar spiking. I know people don't like to hear that, but once you're insulin resistant, beans are like 40 grams of carbs per cup. They're really super high. That's not my point right this minute, but it keeps on going and grabbing that sugar and trying to get it into your cell, but your cell is resistant. You are resistant to the insulin getting the sugar inside of the cell. So now your cell is like, no, my door is closed. You need to go away now. I'm in protection mode. But then even more than that, now you're exhausted because you didn't get any energy into your cell. So you're really, really tired. But now you're going to produce more and more insulin, and it keeps on getting that sugar, keeping that sugar at bay, and it's just going to keep on storing all that excess sugar as fat because it's a fat storing hormone, so it knows what its job is. It just keeps on doing it. But then over time, this can't happen anymore. It's like, it can't quite because the sugar, it's so high, right? That's what's happening. That's when they tell you, oh my stars, look at there, you're pre-diabetic. We have an answer for you. It's called MET. You know the name of it. We have an answer for you. It's a script. You better get on the script right here. Oh, and then look at there, your blood pressure is high too, because that goes along with it. So we could have stopped this decades ago, but we didn't. So here's a script for your high blood pressure. And then, oh my gosh, your cholesterol is high. Here's an STATIN. Oh, that's going to make you sad. So now I'm going to write you an anti-sadness. Okay, here's your suite of meds. And now you've got the beginning of your very own lazy Susan, just like my dad. But my dad took it just a few more steps because he ended up having severe heart issues and surgeries and kidney dialysis, renal failure, right? He ended up, he was injecting insulin in his body and all of these things because your pancreas can get worn out. It's not a forever thing, right? Your body does get tired of doing its job. So you do have to mitigate that issue, right? And that's why you end up then injecting insulin after a certain amount of time. And that's where he was. So his inflammation and toxins and everything was just so high. And his heart was just tanking. His heart was just going down because, again, had they dealt with the insulin resistance at the very beginning of his universe, like just think about this for a second. So my dad was in the Navy and we are Italian. So he was probably insulin resistant from in his 20s. He didn't get diagnosed with type 2 until he was 35. So he's probably insulin resistant in his 20s. Even in the military, I'm assuming they weren't pulling a fasting insulin or telling him about anything. I don't know. But most likely they could have found markers, had they done that back then, that would have told him he was heading in a certain direction. And to my knowledge, that wasn't ever a part of his, whatever. It was only ever told to him that it's genetic, right? So his dad had diabetes. That was my grandpa. And he ended up blind and in a wheelchair. And he died like maybe around 70 something. And so we were always just told it was genetic. So he just lived his best Italian life, right? Well, it's a lot of bread and pasta and a lot of not good things. So thank you, Kristen. Thank you. And so I'm just telling you, like they could have told him early too. Well, now that we know more, because that's like almost 30 years ago now. So let's do better now. Let's do better for you now. If they're still giving us the same trash advice that they gave us 30, 40 years ago, we're dumb to keep following it. We're the ones that aren't very smart anymore if we're doing the exact same thing. This is stupid. And one of my very favorite stories is Sue, who jumps on here every now and then. And Sue started with 1 year ago, she started trading out her foods. She found some of my content. She started trading out her ingredients. She eventually started with the targeted supplementation that I talk about, these 3 right here. She started doing that. And over the course of a year, she's lost 50 pounds and she's off of 10 meds. That all by itself is amazing. But what she said is even more important to me is she said, for 30 years, good morning, Sharon, good to see you. For 30 freaking years, for 3 decades, her doctors never told her the things that she's learning now because she stumbled on my content. And I'm talking about Dr. Ben Bickman today. I'm not the big deal. Like, I go and I study other people, right? Because I'm not the doctor. So Ben Bickman gave me this information for today, right? But I'm just telling you, like, we have so much information now that there is no excuse for us not to go out there and get the proper information so that we can turn things around. But the why is what's important. What is important to you? Like, if you are battling depression and you're on an STATIN, don't do that. If they've had to couple the STATIN, don't you understand? Your body needs cholesterol. So according to Dr. Ben Bickman, the cholesterol isn't the conversation. It's the triglyceride to the HDL ratio. Because they're trying to bring down your cholesterol. But don't you understand? Your liver makes cholesterol to put out fires inside of your arteries. Your brain needs cholesterol. What are we doing? What are we doing? So if you need cholesterol so that your hormones can be happy and you take it and you tank it, and then you get sad, you get depressed. And we should be asking why there's that connection. Like, don't you want a full, functioning, healthy, enjoyable life? Like, even just living in Minnesota seasonally in winter, you're kind of like, oh my goodness gracious me, oh my, the sun isn't shining. That all by itself is not fun. But I can't imagine being in that state all year long, right? Just because of a med that was mismarkered, potentially, in my opinion. I'm just an Italian girl who figured a few things out. I'm just your friend. Okay? So it's not medical advice. I'm being your friend. So this is the whole thing though, right? So we take these meds that are actually being given for wrong markers when we could be turning things around. Nothing that I just talked about is a terminal diagnosis. And the reason why that's important is because if you do have a terminal diagnosis, you might need a team of docs. You might need a team that can help you navigate some pretty interesting rivers, right? You have to listen, you got to do things differently. You can't like experiment as much, right? But you can in my world. I'm one big freaking guinea pig experiment all by myself. You know, I didn't have there was no live video when I started 10 years ago, turning back my insulin resistance. It didn't exist. I'm trying to think, when did it come into play? When did live video come around? It might have been 2007 or 2008 that Periscope showed up. Do you guys remember Periscope? It was attached to Twitter. And I remember watching Periscope and going, oh, Kristen, giving me hearts. I remember watching Periscope and going, oh my stars, the world just changed. And I would say that to people and they'd look at me like I was green. Like, and I'm like, oh, no, you don't understand. Live video just came on the scene. And you can see a map of the world. If you were never on Periscope, you could see this whole map of the world. And you could see a pin everywhere that somebody was live. and you could click on that pin and go into their home, go into their city, go into their village sometimes. Like I was like, this is crazy. And as soon as Periscope got off the ground, Meta, which wasn't Meta at the time, just Facebook, came along and went bam, 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 and like drilled Periscope into the ground. We will take over and kill you. And they did. They just smashed it right into the ground because Facebook is still and still is the biggest behemoth of social media. Like it's massive. It is literally the largest cruise ship that ever did exist. That's Facebook. It just has that many users. It has that much influence, whatever. And Periscope was just a little teeny tiny live video thing. But now we have all this information. And so you can sit on somebody's live like mine and get knowledge or something, food for thought. You can get food for thought, and then you can go research, like different doctors and different third-party resources. And you have this beautiful advantage of taking back your health and really having it make sense for you and actually getting real results. And that should be so exciting for you. So instead of them creating markers, like even if you ever listen to, what's her name, Barbara O'Neill, and I don't agree with all of her stuff. And a lot of people, unfortunately, they use AI and they misrepresent her. They make you think that it's her saying something and it's not. You have to be very careful with stuff like that. But she would talk about back in the 70s, the marker for cholesterol was like 300 or something like that. And they just keep going down, 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 down. So they can go up, 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 up on how many people are on scripts. Well, that's just adding so much like bad side effects for so many people, right? But I will tell you that you can turn so much back in your life just by paying attention to your insulin resistance. And it is absolutely 100% reversible, in my opinion. I've seen it happen time and time and time again now. You cannot convince me otherwise. And I only do, I'm a super simple person. Like I'm not into complicated. When I was doing a phone consult last week, I was talking about how, listen, you'll notice that I'm not making complicated recipes. I'm very simplistic. This morning, I had 2 eggs and some taco meat for breakfast. I'm not thinking about like 5 ingredient pancakes and how to make my own maple syrup. And some people are into all of that. That's great. That's just not me. I'm not interested in spending a ton of time creating a recipe that has 20 ingredients in it. It's not the kind of cook I am. I'm so much more streamlined than that. So it's the same thing with turning back insulin resistance. I talk about targeted supplementation and food ingredient trade-outs, right? So I did a consult yesterday with somebody that we were just talking about, what do you want to target? What is it that you're trying to target? Because sometimes we don't know. We're like, I just know that I need to deal with something. Well, if you are insulin resistant, and you probably are if you're on my content, you probably want to target that first because a lot of stuff is going to come from that. But you might want to couple that with, or you might want to start with your gut. If you have gut issues, let's start there for a half a second. If you have IBS, you have Crohn's, you have leaky gut, you don't have a gallbladder, you know that you are just not getting the nutrients that you need because they're just spilling over because of that leaky gut. They're just like going right out of the boat. And so you're not getting the benefits of anything that you're eating or supplementing with. You're constipated. If you have indigestion, that is not normal. You should not have indigestion. That is a sign that something is off. If you have eczema all over your body, that is a sign. That's your body screaming for help. If you have, all of the symptoms of insulin resistance that we talk about, like we did the whole thing yesterday from least to most common. But like if you have skin tags, that is a sign. These are signs. Your body's trying to tell you something, right? So you can turn a lot of that back by paying attention to your gut. So actually then I always recommend with people, and I did with this person, I said, you need to probably start with the gut primer. You need to get your gut straightened out because you need to, for her, in her customized conversation, she ended up doing the gut primer and the liver supplement because she needs her liver health to go up, up, up. Okay. So those were the two things. Here you go. Do the gut primer, do the liver supplement. You're going to be so much happier because if you already know that you have fatty liver, we got to deal with your fatty liver. And, and then I asked her, like, how is your food? How are you eating? Because you can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. You have to fix what got you into the pickle to begin with, right? So processed foods, sugary foods, seed oils, all of the trash, we have to stop. What used to be a treat 30, 40 years ago, we've turned it into a daily diet habit, and it's not helping us at all. Like, it's not good. So anyway, so if you need to deal with your gut, do the gut primer, do the probiotic. To ask me about the gut reset protocol, how do I recalibrate my gut? Maybe you have to start there. Maybe you have to start with the trio, these 3 supplements that help with insulin sensitivity. Turn things back, and then you will get better glucose numbers. You will get better triglyceride numbers. You can do simple things and turn this back because this isn't a terminal diagnosis. Now it can get bad. You can lose appendages. You can lose your eyesight. You can die at 63. So it's not to be taken lightly. But long before that, you guys, you can do simple things. So the trio are the 3 supplements that help with insulin sensitivity. The gut reset protocol, that is where you are just, it's a greens product, looks like one, but it has 6 products in one, where you're taking a scoop every day. And this was where a lot of my testimonies are coming from people who, the digestive issues, the lack of gallbladder, the constipation, needing to move impacted waste through your body, needing to shore up the sides, so to speak, of your gut because of leaky gut, etc. And then if anybody needs something for like another layer of insulin sensitivity, or now you need to target that visceral fat because now you have finally had tests and you have fatty liver, that you have whatever, that's where the pixie stick comes in, the orange pixie stick. And this is where it's a clinical dose of an extract that you put on your tongue and it tastes like orange candy. It's very, very good. But that will actually help your visceral fat. So there are things that can help people to turn things back around, but you have to take the time to just ask about them, right? Take the time to implement something. Don't sabotage yourself. There's so many people that want to have a different season, the next 30, 90 days, 30, 60, 90 days of their world. You have to decide to get your answers, your questions answered so that you can have a customization too. So anybody at any time can reach out to me and say, listen, I need you to put a cart together for me and put the trio in there and maybe that orange pixie stick, I need to look at those. Or I have a question about the gut reset. I have somebody who has short gut syndrome and she was very concerned about taking a gut primer. Turned out to be the best move she made, but she was concerned, right? And so I want to make sure that everybody gets the opportunity to have a hand to hold them to say, let's try this or let's think about this. And then listen, if it's not for you, there's a 6-month guarantee. I'll get you the number. I will help you in that process so that you don't ever feel alone. And then before we jump off, you guys, the next challenge is April 7th through the 11th in the group, Ditch Insulin Resistance for Women. We'll do another 5-day challenge. It's our 23rd one. So that's almost 2 straight years of a track to run on. Should anybody have wanted to run on that track, and many of you chose to do it. Many of you chose to take a journey for your health, and you've had results, everything from 40, 45, 50 pounds of weight gone, off of meds, not diabetic, put in your chart. So many of you have had such amazing results by just doing 2 simple things. writing out your food ingredients and targeting your supplementation and getting the inside of your body functioning. And I'm telling you, I'm so proud of every single person who chooses to journey for themselves. Listen, nobody's going to do it for you, right? You have to do it for yourself. So, all right, with that, tomorrow we're going to be back here at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. It'll be Thursday. And if you need anything in the meantime, Messenger on Facebook, inbox on Instagram, and you can message me on TikTok. But if you want me to send you any kind of a cart, we have to get off the APP. And they don't like that, but that's how we have to do it because they don't give us the ability to send clickable anything. What was the other lab result? Was it triglyceride? Yes. Yes, thank you for asking that. So let me clear that up for you. It is your triglycerides that you want. You want your triglyceride to HDL ratio, as opposed to just your LDL cholesterol. They'll just tell you, oh, your LDL is too high. You need to be put on an STATIN to bring that down. But that's the wrong marker, according to Dr. Ben Bickman, which is where this information is coming from for today. That's the wrong marker. The correct marker happens to be your HDL to triglyceride ratio. So let me clear that up here. So hold on. So some of you already have lab tests in a portal, in a medical portal. And you could go and look at these today. You wouldn't even have to get fresh tests. So let me give you what that looks like then for the HDL. For the HDL to triglyceride ratio. A good way to check your heart health is by looking at your triglyceride to HDL ratio. Here's what to aim for. So grab a pen or pause me if you're on the replay and write this down. The best is 1.0 or lower. So the example is this. Your triglycerides are 80, your HDL is 80, your ratio is 1.0. Okay would be 1.1 to 2.0. The example is your triglycerides are 120, your HDL is 80, your ratio is 1.5. That's okay. Higher risk is above 2.0. Example, your triglycerides are 200, your HDL is 50, and your ratio is 4.0. Are you tracking? A lower ratio means better heart and metabolic health. That's the entire conversation all day, every freaking day. Metabolic health, insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome. So a lower ratio means better heart health, heart and metabolic health, keeping triglycerides low, and HDL high helps reduce insulin resistance and heart disease risk. Okay. Did that help? Let me see here. Did that help, Patty? So that's kind of how you can gauge that. There's a good, there's an okay, and then there's a high risk. All right. So you want a 1.0 ratio between your HDL and triglycerides. 1.5 is starting to, and then a 4 or something, higher risk. So instead of just putting everything, you're welcome, Patty, everything on LDL, and all they're doing is LDL, LDL, LDL. Looks like you need an STATIN. Here we go. And then you don't get off of them because you're only using that one marker, which according to Dr. Ben Bickman is the wrong marker to begin with. It's the wrong marker, but the right marker of the ratio doesn't sell any drugs. Capiche? Good morning, Claudette. Good to see you. So that's what's happening there. So there you go. You agree with the calculation, Cheryl. Thank you. Yes, divide your triglycerides by your HDL, and you think it should be under 2.0, 1.5 is better. Very good, Cheryl or Kristen. Yes, thank you. And you guys are the ones that really turned me on into even hearing that information. When I hear somebody like a Dr. Ben Bickman explain that, I'm like, oh, yep. That's right. That's a better marker than the whole LDL conversation. And we have to get some of these things right. It's the same thing. And I drill it down every single day. Ask for a fasting insulin test. You don't have to have any test at all. If your sugars look good, but you still think you're insulin resistant because you've got belly fat that just will not go away, and you're like wanting to nap an hour after you eat, you're probably insulin resistant. You don't even need a test to tell you. But if they would have given you a fasting insulin years ago, you could have been proactive this whole time. Or if you knew that your triglycerides were high years ago, you could have been taking action this whole time. But they wait until your sugars go up. And then they write you a little script. They wait until your LDL is up, and then they give you a little script. We could have taken proactive action long before they were ever going to get into the business of writing us a script. So we have to have that attitude for ourselves, because then we can avoid the mess of all of the doctor appointments and the prescription filling and the fallout of anything else, like any kind of procedures and crap like that. Like, we can stop a lot of stuff just by deciding, listen, apparently you guys aren't God and you're giving us bad information. So apparently we're going to get our own information and we're going to just do it ourselves to a certain extent, like, because they just keep telling us the same thing over and over and over again. Like, that is the definition of insanity. So let's forget about that. Anyway. All right. If you need anything from me, please let me know. And I will see you back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. And I hope you guys have a really good day. Enjoy. Today it's sunny and it looks like it's going to be a little warmer in Minnesota, and the sun is shining and the birds are singing, and it's just made for a happy, happy day. So I will jump off and answer anybody's questions. It's the first thing I do when I get off of my lives. I go and I talk to you guys. So I'm ready if you are. Okay. All right. Have a good day. Bye.